Hey everyone, I'm Bryan, and today I'm going to show you how I took an unfinished project and turned it into a hidden Oasis diorama. Okay, so I'm going to be finishing this project I started a long time ago. I don't remember exactly when I stopped working on this. I know I took a few pictures, so if I still have them, I'll put them somewhere on the screen with the date to show the last time I worked on it. I found a couple of old pictures on one of my hard drives, and I was really surprised to find out that the last time I worked on this project was on April 7th, 2024, and today happens to be April 7th, 2026. So I don't know what happened to the pictures I took from when I first started the project, but these are what I have left over from 2 years ago. Basically, it's this canyon or a cliffside diorama that I made from a sheet of old styrofoam, or many sheets of styrofoam. They're stacked on top of each other. The whole right side is all styrofoam, but the left side over here, this is made from clay. Well, the crafty kind of air dry clay, and I squished it into some rock molds to make the texture. But this is really heavy, and I don't remember exactly how heavy this is. Okay, let's see if I can balance this on here, that it'll pick up. Oh, nope, it's falling off. Maybe try it this way. Hopefully. Come on. Okay. Alright. Let's try it like this. Okay, what does that say? 31.29 ounces. So, yeah. Alright, that's pretty heavy for like one of my crafting projects, but it didn't start out like this, as I mentioned. So this diorama was actually a lot bigger in surface area, but I took off a bunch of the styrofoam pieces because I wanted to make it a little bit smaller. And one of those pieces I removed was this. So this is another project I made a few months ago, like this little tiny island with like one tree on it, but this whole section of styrofoam came off of this piece. So I'm going to be hopefully finishing this today and making it into an actual diorama, not just a gigantic paperweight. All right, the first thing I need to do is repaint this whole thing with a base coat of brown paint. So these white spots you see here, at some point I put my texture mix over a few spots. That's what this is. It's just PVA glue, baking soda, a little bit of water. I don't think I put any paint in it because these parts are white, so I might have just left it with those three ingredients. But I think what I did is I filled gaps in with the texture paste. But yeah, I need to cover all of this up. Okay, so the blank spots have been painted in, and I just realized there were at some point I must have used different shades of brown paint because the shade I just used is a lighter color than what was already on here. And then around the edge over here, I must have used an even lighter shade at some point in the past, but it doesn't, well, I guess it does go all the way around. I'm not gonna try to repaint everything, so we'll see how it turns out, but I'm gonna leave it to dry for a few hours and then come back to it, and hopefully I'll have some idea of how I want to decorate this. All right, it's been about an hour or so since I stopped painting, and while I was having lunch, I had an idea for what I want to turn this into. I'm gonna make this some kind of like hidden oasis with like a little waterfall in here. So there's gonna be like a depression right here with some water effects in it and like a little trickle coming down from the top. Maybe I might do something up here to make it look more like water's pooling and then flowing down through the middle. And actually what I went out to do is to go get some scenery supplies. I was going to run out to the store and get some little like bushes and plants and flowers and things, but I forgot. Today is Easter Sunday, so everyone is closed. So I just wasted my time driving around town. So I will be making that stuff from scratch with whatever I happen to have here at home. So I thought about carving out a piece of the top layer of styrofoam to make like a little basin for my water effects, but I think that would look a little too messy. So what I'm going to try to do is use some acetone to melt the foam instead. I need to be really careful about that. I haven't done this sort of thing in a long time, and I'm not sure it's going to work. I tried just scraping off the top layer of this foam here with just the paint on it, but it's getting kind of messy. So I didn't want to cut into it with like a knife or anything. I'm just going to cut this and see what happens. I hope you're enjoying watching me change my mind on the tools I'm using. So I have a pair of needle nose pliers, so I'm going to try to rip it off like this, and look at that. It's working out pretty well. Well, since using the acetone on the foam is not such a good idea, I did find another use for it that would help me with this project. All right, I think that's squished down enough. Oh. Yeah, well, oh. Uh-oh. Okay, I probably should have realized that. Taking out so much of the foam compromised what was left, and it just snapped. But that's okay. What I'm going to do is pour glue in this, so that way it will create a seal to hopefully hold all of this in. I'm going to use my texture mix instead. So it's just acrylic paint, baking soda, and the glue. I didn't put any water in it because I don't want this too wet, or so that way it'll hopefully dry faster with just the glue and the paint in here. Alright, it's been about 6 hours since I left this to dry. It's kind of squishy on top, but it's mostly solid. The side over here, it's still a little bendy, so you can see the crack that happened earlier. So I'm just going to get started with dry brushing the outside. So I'm just going to start experimenting with my first color for the dry brush. It's a sort of a reddish, orangish brown mix. I already got some stuck on it. I don't really know if I'll like it in the end, but I just want to kind of see what it looks like. So I only dry brushed the outside of this piece and not the inside, because like I mentioned, since this is going to be some kind of like oasis, it'll be much more green on this side. I just want the outside to be like this dusty, rocky exterior, and then you turn it around and then you see lush green and, you know, full of life sort of thing. So I think the next color I'm gonna do is more of like just a orangish yellow, but not as much. Just I don't want to cover up all the red here. Okay, that's the second dry brush layer done. So I think that looks all right. Now I'm gonna do one more in a very light tan color, and that'll be it for the dry brushing. Okay, I don't know how easy it is to see on camera, but it didn't really look like it made a difference. Maybe because the color I used was too light? I don't know. But even on just a brown patch, it looks a little more of the goldish yellow. So, yeah. Okay, I'll just go over it since I already started. I don't know. I think it looks okay, but I might have covered up a little too much of the red and the yellow. But, yeah. I don't know, I'm not gonna change it again, so I'll just leave it as it is. So the next part, I'm going to paint in the little pond area with some blue colors, just so I remember to do that before I start pouring the glue to make the water feature later. I didn't want to use a super dark color blue because then it would make the water look really dark and murky, but I didn't want to use something too bright either and it looked kind of cartoonish. So I mixed up some of this grayish blue color right here, and I think this should work. And hopefully it doesn't saturate the texture mix too much, because again, I still need this to dry, but with the added moisture from this paint, that might delay it a little bit. Since this side of the piece is just flat on top, and I didn't mention this earlier, and I have like these sort of carved steps in the cliffside leading up to it, I might add some kind of like lookout post or something up here instead of just adding like vegetation or plants or whatever. I thought about putting like a big tree right here, but then I thought, well, what kind of tree would it be? Would it be more of like a mountainy, rocky desert sort of tree to go with the outside? Or would it be something more that would go better for the inside, for more like water and other kinds of vibrant plants? So I'm not sure I want to give myself the extra work about making something from up here. I'm still deciding on that, but now I'm going to start dry brushing and sponging on different shades of green for the inside. So I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm not using any reference material for my diorama piece here. When I had the idea to do this Oasis idea, I thought about looking up some pictures, but that's really not how I do my projects. I kind of come up with an idea and work off memory or just experiment and just try new things, because the way I work is if I see a picture of something I want to try to replicate, I focus too much on copying it and I don't spend enough time just having fun or being creative on my own, because I'm constantly comparing myself to whatever else I'm looking at and it's like, oh, it's not right, this should be like this or that should be like that. And then I get hung up on these details too much. And at the end of it, I feel like, oh, I didn't make it how it looked in this picture, so it's all wrong. So I try to avoid doing that by just making it my own. Like if it doesn't look like, you know, the reference, then that's fine, because it's really not supposed to. I didn't record this part just so I can save some time for this video, and it's probably getting long by now, but I put some of the dark green paint just on the top surfaces of the steps and the highest part over here, and a little bit of the cliffside over here. I'm just going to do the dark green. I'm not going to go with the lighter green color because, again, most of this is going to be covered by the foliage I put down here. And I'm thinking about maybe putting like, not a darker green, but maybe a darker blue on the sides of the cliffs. I'm gonna try that dark blue idea right in here and over here just to see how it looks. If I don't like it, I'll repaint it with brown. So this dark blue color I thought I picked up is actually more of like an olive green. You can see it over there on my palette. I don't know why I thought it was dark blue. Maybe just the lighting conditions at the time. So I'm just gonna brush a little bit on here. Because also, I'm not really experienced with making like shadows and highlights and tones like too much, but I think this would work. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but yeah, using this color, this will be good. Alright, I think that does it. I put a little too much of the olive green paint right there, but I think that's okay for the overall look of this, since this is kind of where the water's flowing. I guess you can say this is sort of like moss or algae that kind of pooled up right next to here. And for the rest of it, oops, yeah, so I'm happy with how this turned out. So while I was digging around in my boxes of supplies, I found these little plastic plants that I forgot that I actually had. Come on, camera, focus. So I think I'm gonna use a bunch of these in the diorama here. They have like these pointy ends. I'm just gonna jam them into the styrofoam. But I think I'm gonna like coat these with a little bit of paint, because I mean they're plastic, but they look a little too plastic, and they'd stand out against the matte finish of my diorama piece. what I'm doing now is I'm going to be putting the first part of the flocking on my piece here, but I'm going to start with some of this sandy desert type flocking that I have. It's just made with some leftover sand, some model railroad scenery ballast for little tiny rocks, and some assorted green and light brown grassy turf mixed in. So I want to put it on the outside edge of the rocky, dry area, because the more I looked at it, this looked kind of, I don't know, not plain, but just like it was missing something. So I think if I just put a little bit of the flocking just around the edge, that might make it pop out a bit more. So I'll start with just a little bit of that, and then sprinkle this on. That looks all right. Probably add some more up here a little bit, because this looks just like a line. Yeah, I think that looks all right. So now, let's see. There's not too many flat surfaces on this side. You must put like a little bit, and then some right over here. All right, I'm just gonna start with the area around the pond, and I'm leaving a little bit of space right here in the middle because this is where my water feature is gonna go. So I mixed up 3 different colors of like model scenery turf grass in like dark green, sort of a medium green, and like a burnt green. So I'm just going to sprinkle it on the glue parts and just to see what it would look like. So the reason why I'm doing the flocking with the glue now is, well, it's actually pretty late at night, and I wanted to make this the last thing I did tonight before I pick this up again tomorrow. It's because, of course, the glue will need time to dry. And I don't want to be wasting time tomorrow waiting for all this glue to dry when I can just let it sit overnight. Okay, I completely forgot that I had these little scenery bushes. I was going to add some around the edge over by the pond, but now I don't know where I should put them since I already covered them with all the flocking. So I'm going to stick a few in the glue I put around the waterfall area. All right, so what do you think about that? Now, of course, when the glue is dry, I'm going to shake this and dust some of it off so these patches won't be as well, they won't be as thick like this. So we'll just find out what it looks like. All right, I changed my mind again. I don't like the green up here because that implies there's some kind of, well, moisture for plants and such to grow. So I'm going to sprinkle some of my other flocking mix on top here and make it more sandy. Okay, so it's the next morning and hoping everything dried. So I'm just going to shake off the entire piece, maybe dust off a few spots to get some of the flocking off. And then I'm actually going to redo the top flat portion here. I just don't like it, look of it, like the bits of sand and gravel, and it's just too bright for the rest of the piece. So I think what I'm going to do is just very lightly paint over it with some brown paint, but I'll get to that in a second. Okay, I recoated the surface with glue, and then I mixed up some fine model scenery, like turf flocking, with some chunks of ground pepper. So hopefully the darker colors of this mix will blend a little bit better with the surface of my diorama piece here. Okay, well, I think that looks good. All right, now I'm going to start putting in some of these plastic plants that I painted last night. So I think they look a lot better than just leaving them as they were. Okay. I had this mapped out in my head and where everything's gonna go. So I hope I don't. Yeah. Ah, good. That actually worked. All right, looks good. Yeah. Okay, so the next part is I'm going to let everything dry again, dust off the pond area. So this is still a little bit squishy, but it's mostly firm, so I think I'll be okay pouring my water feature, which will be just some clear PVA glue mixed with a little bit of food coloring. Actually, scratch that. One more thing I'm going to do. I'm going to sprinkle some of my sandy flocking over the bottom of the pond. You might be wondering, why is he doing that? He just said it didn't look right. That's why he covered it up a few minutes ago. Well, this is going to be at the bottom of the pond, and once it's covered with the glue, it'll be somewhat obscured by the blue coloring I'm going to use. And I want to make this look a little bit more realistic instead of just this generic blue blob. Now, I'm going to pour some glue in the pond area for the water feature and along the little crevasse right there. And I think I used too much food coloring again, so it's a really deep blue. So hopefully it doesn't obscure too much of the sandy bottom here. If it does, that's okay. Well, the glue is flowing very slowly, so I'm just gonna let this sit for a few hours to settle, and hopefully it clears up a little bit. On second thought, I don't think I'm going to be using any resin on this project right now. I like the look of the glue as it is, and if you've seen my other videos, I've used UV resin on top of a layer of glue just to add some extra effects to it. And I know when this glue dries, it's going to shrink into practically nothing and just create a thin film. But for the purposes of just my video, I'm going to leave it like this. Alright, that's all I have for today. So thanks so much for watching the video, and if you've made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. I originally was planning on making this video much shorter, but it ended up being over 30 minutes long. I'm trying out some new styles of video making, and I wanted to make this one more of like a vlog style instead of what I've been doing in the past where I upload all my footage and then separately record a narration over it. But this way I can talk about my thoughts as I'm working on something instead of trying to go back later and go, okay, what was I thinking at this point? So in this video, it doesn't sound as professionally recorded with all of my thoughts and notes laid out. So you'll definitely notice if you watch the whole video, I kind of go, yeah, in a lot of places throughout it. But anyway, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And tune in next week for another crafting video. Oh, it is just slightly too big for my little photo booth. So my turntable, it can't turn it. No. Oh well, that's okay. I'll just use the final pictures from here then.